Splendid here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the culture behind Company of Heroes and what it means for the franchise. But what exactly do I mean by culture? One definition is the ideas, customs, and social behaviors of a particular people or society. This includes manifestations of arts and intellectual achievement. Splendid! What does this have to do with Company? Yeah. I know. Shut up. Just give me a second. I got it. In 1998, a little director made a little film called Saving Private Ryan, and it blew everyone's minds.
The Oscar goes to Saving Private Ryan.
Hines for Saving Private Ryan. Michael Kahn for Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan.
Goes to Janusz Kaminski for Saving Private Ryan.
And the Oscar goes to Steven Spielberg.
Shortly after, Tom Hanks can't get enough of the Western Front and co-creates Band of Brothers in 2001. And guess what? It's super successful and it blows everyone's minds. Telling these stories about these groups of soldiers in France in World War II is becoming very popular. You could even say it was a cultural phenomenon. So 2006 rolls around. THQ and Relic released a little game called Company of Heroes. It would be fair to say that Company of Heroes takes a couple of pages out of the books of Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan. It mirrors Spielberg's handheld camera shots. In both sets of media, we get down really close with the troops running from cover to cover on the beaches. And they're very similar tonally and aesthetically. I'm just going to play some shots side by side that are very similar in terms of lighting, composition, and camera work. These touches and techniques really helped light the spark of Company of Heroes in me as a young man. It was a truly cinematic experience. What better place to take from than cinema itself to make your game feel more genuine and authentic, especially one so studied and heartfelt as Band of Brothers. Just like in Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan, Company of Heroes is focusing on a small group of soldiers. We follow them chronologically as they land at Omaha Beach through all their battles in France. It's a story of courage and sacrifice. Sacrifices made by everyday people like you and me who find themselves in these positions through circumstance. Our everyday American characters strive through hardships and loss, seeking an end to the war. Their personalities, humor, feel grounded in reality. The game really goes out of its way to humanize everyone. They even take the time to acknowledge that the Germans are people too, while they scream in horror at the intensity of the Allied bombardment. The game uses these transition shots that really hit home that these men you're about to control, these characters are just everyday people that you could be sending to their deaths potentially. Needless to say, Company Heroes is received very, very well. Both critics and audiences alike couldn't wait to get a little bit more Company of Heroes. Alrighty, it's 2013 and everyone is stoked to get their hands on the anticipated sequel, COH3, but this time it's set on the Eastern Front. Relic were under a little bit of pressure to recreate their great success they had with Dawn of War and Company of Heroes. However, this time they didn't have that natural and present interest in the subject matter instilled by other recent popular media. So what happens when you don't have Tom Hanks? You get Jude Law. Is that a good trade? Probably not. Enemy at the Gates is a 2001 motion picture about a great sniper duel between the legendary snipers Vasily Zaitsev and Aaron Cohen. Also, quick side note, the book of the same name by William Craig is a fantastic documentation and telling of the Battle of Stalingrad in grueling detail. If you're into that sort of thing, you should definitely give it a read. It's quite wonderful. Well, maybe not wonderful, but eye-opening for sure. I personally think it's really obvious that they used this film as a great reference to the sort of more cinema side of the campaign. Let me just roll some clips.
Keep moving, men! Move! I have no weapons! Find one! Go forward! Follows him! When the one with a rifle gets killed, the one who is following picks up the rifle! Stalin! All who retreat are traitors to the motherland! Turn back and fight, damn you! Fire!
As we can see, Relic have taken some inspiration from popular cinema, and more power to them. I think it's helped them sell their cinematics really well. I just wish they kept doing this in future iterations of the franchise. I know I'm really in the minority, but I actually really liked the campaign in COH3. My only real complaint was that they moved away from the small scale of soldiers, like the small sections and squads. And we've transitioned to the retelling of the war or the campaign through a lieutenant and his journal, creating a much broader template of the war, and losing the connection to the soldiers on the ground established in the previous title. It's probably safe to say that most of us have been playing COH on a semi-regular basis for the better part of a decade, because nothing really hits like Company Heroes. It's a very unique RTS experience. Nothing really comes close. Iron Harvest looked promising but lacked the depth of Company of Heroes, particularly in the online department. RTS games have come and gone, Grey Goo, Active Aggression, Planetary Annihilation to name a few. A Company of Heroes remains, steadfast as the years go by. Suddenly, it's July 2021, and IGN drop a live stream for the announcement of Company of Heroes 3. Every COH fan and his mum are looking at the stream, imagining what wonders are going to wait before us. Then they hit us with this.
Jesus!
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
Fast forward to February 2023, we get our hands on the finished version of the game. We launch and get ready to play our first mission of some classic Company of Heroes campaign action. Relic's campaign introductions are legendary. Every fan knows the intro sets the precedent and tone of all of their games, and this title has big shoes to fill. Alright, let's see how they do it.
That's the right call, Commander. Fire when you're ready, and we'll... All ships, open fire!
Damn Krauts have had plenty of time to set up.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
Oh, well that's not good. Maybe the Germans have the really cool cinematic intro. After all, their campaign is more linear and story-based. Let's have a look. I just want to pause for a second. I just want to say I don't hate the game. I have high hopes for its future, and I want it to succeed. Certain standards have been set in this franchise, and that's what I'm trying to address. I think if I were to make an argument that they didn't even try, you'd probably have a hard time arguing with me. There is no cinematic shots, no characters to follow as they progress through the campaign, no use of Dutch angles or set pieces inspired from cinema. The music is limited, and things like composition and lighting are absent as you progress from one mission to the next. There are no character arcs or sacrifices because there are no characters. The closest thing we have to characters are the leaders in the dynamic campaign, who are more like campaign mechanics than they are actual characters. Well, and Rommel, but the less said about him the better. Alongside big problems with bugs, balance, art, SFX quality and limited features, no surrender button, and a push for microtransactions, it's safe to say the game wasn't received incredibly well. I'm sure in the future the devs and the community will strive to build this game into a wonderful experience, just like they did with COH3. However, I'm worried that the empty husk that is the campaign is rotten to the core and will remain unsalvageable. What do I mean by vision? I'm referring to having a visual idea of what you want to say in your game, and a plan of how to tell that to the player. I believe the lack of storytelling, cinematic techniques, and characters are also partially due to the lack of popular media surrounding the Italian theatre in recent years. I think the last proper big film in regards to the Mediterranean was probably The Big Red One, which came out in 1980.
He made the Big Red One.
Do you know what they call you for, guys? Sergeant's Four Horsemen.
This is the Big Red One.
Combat rejects sure know how to lay down fire.
The film's not perfect by any means, but it has some nice shots and it provides a nice ensemble of characters, including a very young Mark Hamill. Also, the symbolism of the Big Red One patch would be a nice place to start for like historically acceptable skins and whatnot. But why am I bringing this up? Because I believe Relic needs some kind of visual reference to help them build tone, compose thought-provoking shots in order to say something about the subject matter, as they have done in previous titles. Code 1 had Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers, Code 2 had Enemy of the Gates, and Code 3 has, well, nothing at all apparently. I feel like the lack of reference can really be felt in Code 3. It comes across as dry and sort of empty in terms of themes and meaningful interactions. Which brings me to my next point about code development.
And a lot of players out there watching this probably did one of those surveys and gave feedback. And those surveys, we sent them out to hundreds of thousands of people that are still playing Company of Heroes, and we got over 60,000 responses to that survey. And that really helped inform the direction we were going.
So then we grabbed our council, and then we actually what we did is we grabbed the COH3 engine, and we started, instead of doing paper design, we just got straight into making the game and getting it into the players' hands as fast as we could.
The idea of asking for feedback and insight into what the community want from a project is very important, don't get me wrong. But when the whole vision and idea of your game is based solely around player surveys, I feel like there's a lack of passion and soul in the game because there's no vision for it. Imagine we go back to the 90s and Spielberg is hosting audience feedback rooms to write the script of Saving Private Ryan, solely based on audience feedback. The truth is most people don't know what they want. Write your own story, have your own vision. After all, it's your game. Have some integrity and be proud of your product. Be invested in it and pursue this vision with passion. Company of Heroes has always found stories that humanize these soldiers, taking huge inspiration cinematically from popular media such as Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers, as previously discussed. But now they seem to be doing the complete opposite by dehumanizing the soldiers.
Iron beasts, tearing through our land, bringing fire and destruction. EMC, my father held me close. And told me that the war would pass.
It almost feels like the developers and the consumers are on completely different pages with what they want from this game. I don't want you to leave here thinking I hate the game. I love Company Heroes, and it pains me to see it fall so far. I truly hope to see a good campaign for Company Heroes again. One that resembles the men who died in these conflicts instead of the blue scarves of the world. The thing that bothers me the most, in their excitement to subvert our expectations with the blue scarf, they have truly forgotten their original vision in making this franchise/art form. Remembering the heroes.
It reminds you that these people were human beings, just as you are a human being, just as the military personnel are human beings, and that interconnection, yeah, it's kind of everything. It breaks down the barriers of them versus us, or just a vast quantity of numbers. And I was at the closing sort of ceremony today, and the last poppy got put in, and by a little boy, and you think, that's a life, and you look around and there's more than 800,000 more lives, and it does hit you. Sometimes you look at the vastness of it and it's beautiful but hard to comprehend, and then this one poppy goes down and you think, okay, yeah, this is rather